Welcome back to the channel, guys. So today we have to talk about the Game Boy and what the heck is Nintendo doing to celebrate this awesome handheld. Its 30th anniversary is coming up very soon, come April in Japan of next year, and also July in the US of next year. In the UK, I guess it was a year away. What does it say the release was here? September 28th, 1990. So you got a little bit longer to go over there. But what the heck is Nintendo doing with this? We've had some news and some speculation with some patents and some crap that that kind of got out there that Nintendo had filed. But there's got to be more to this thing, So it's like 2:20 a.m. right now. Freaking November 20th. I couldn't sleep. I'm sitting there, I'm actually playing my Game Boy in bed while I'm trying to fall asleep. I love this device. I have the original Game Boy, that clear one, right? The Game Boy Pocket was flipping sweet. And then I also have my Game Boy Color right up in here, the clear one. I always like these clear consoles and handhelds. It's pretty flipping sweet. But I'm just sitting here like, this thing paved the way for so much, all these new handhelds that have come out over the years. It changed the world as far as portable gaming goes. I don't know, I don't want to say for sure, but if it wasn't for the Game Boy, would people be playing games on their cell phones? That kind of thing? Probably, right? But I still want to think that the Game Boy had something to do with, the way the world is now with handheld gaming and mobile gaming. This thing, this little Wikipedia article, it says during its lifetime, the Game Boy mainly competed with the Sega Game Gear, Atari Lynx, and the Turbo Express. That's garbage. It didn't compete with anyone. It slaughtered the competition. There was no competition. This thing sold a ton. It's actually the third best-selling system out of handhelds and consoles. The third best-selling system of all time. 118, almost 119 million sold. That is nuts. And then what's the second? The Nintendo DS. That just has to say something there to you. These handhelds that Nintendo made were they grabbed on. A lot of people dug these things, and they still do. The 3DS has been pretty popular. The DS, nothing could touch that. I know these portables, these handhelds, they were popular throughout the world, but, in Japan, it was like a huge craze. But, they have to recognize this thing. The only thing we've seen is this damn patent with what looks to me and to many others. I've already commented on this thing. It's just a cell phone case. You put a cell phone in there, and there are these little conductive touch pads that touch the screen of the phone and register the buttons. I mean, it's obvious that's what this thing is. It's a case for a phone. I'm sure Nintendo's going to put out some kind of virtual console eShop thing, for cell phones, iPhones, whatever the hell this thing's made for, which is going to be kind of hard to, do something like this and have everybody's phone compatible with it. So I almost think it's going to be like an iPhone thing. I don't know. Or whatever the most popular Android phone is, but that's all it is. It's just really obvious. There's cutouts for, the camera on your phone, the speakers, all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, is this really what's going to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Game Boy? I sure as hell hope not. Because, whatever phone this thing takes, I most likely am not going to have. Or the phone that I have at that time is not going to fit in this thing. So, I mean, this seems like a little niche type thing that's already been done before, and I just don't care. I need something proper from Nintendo to celebrate this awesome freaking handheld. The Game Boy, changed my life, in all honesty. I was a lot younger at the time, obviously, right? This thing came out almost 30 years ago. But I just remember playing the crap out of this thing, being on long road trips and just sitting there in the car oh crap, I need more batteries. Oh, where's my worm light? You remember the little worm light that you plugged into the side and, came up and, you had a little light, like a little book light type thing. Do you remember that? I remember sitting in my, not my car, but, my mom's car, sitting there just playing this thing with this little light over it. Oh my God, Final Fantasy Adventure was one that I dug a lot. Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. What? The Kirby games on the Game Boy. The Metroid game on the Game Boy. Metroid 2. Freaking tons of awesome games on the Game Boy that definitely deserve to be celebrated. And how is Nintendo going to celebrate this thing? Is it just going to be this stupid cell phone case? I'm really hoping something happens here. A lot of people, with all this talks of the Nintendo 64 Classic, ever since Super Nintendo came out, the Super Nintendo Classic Edition came out, people were talking about what's going to be next. So many. I remember doing videos on the SNES and even talking about, speculation with the N64, even though now, Reggie's saying it ain't happening, bro. We ain't working on it. But who knows? They always change their minds, right? Maybe they're not working on it because they're working on something for the Game Boy. Because the Game Boy needs to be celebrated. I don't know. But so many people were saying Nintendo's going to do a Game Boy Classic next. It only makes sense. A Game Boy Classic. This little fella right here. How would they make a Game Boy Classic? Would they just make a Game Boy that doesn't take cartridges, that has a bunch of games built into it? Would that be pretty sweet? Yeah, I think it would be kind of cool. I definitely get more use out of, my real Game Boy than I would with these little, handheld devices that have limited games on them. But with Nintendo, the hackability's there usually, especially the NES and Super Nintendo Classics. We got those hacked pretty quick. So if Nintendo did do something with a handheld classic system, pretty sure we would figure it out, right? But I just don't see how likely it is for them to do something like this. Does it make sense to make a Game Boy Classic? Obviously, it wouldn't be a mini. I mean, are you really going to miniaturize this thing? Like the Game Boy Micro, playing Game Boy Advance games, that thing was pretty cool, but at the same time, it was tiny. The screen was all right, but it was tiny. Like, I don't think they would do something like that. Maybe, something similar in size to the Game Boy Color, even though this thing's actually pretty damn heavy once you have a cartridge in there. I have a EverDrive, actually, and a couple batteries. This thing's got a little heft to it. It's got a little chunk to it, Maybe a Game Boy Pocket, maybe similar size to this. That would be kind of cool, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't see them doing any kind of dedicated hardware, especially when they got crap like this in the works. A cell phone case. Maybe, just maybe, they'll do a Switch collection, or maybe they'll just, I don't want to say cheap out, because, I mean, if they put out a cartridge that was a Game Boy Classic collection, I think that would be cool. Would it just encompass just the original Game Boy games, maybe with that Super Game Boy color filters going on and whatnot? Maybe some kind of expanded colors? That would be cool. Maybe convert them, maybe a handful of titles to, look even better than what we remember. Give it a new fresh coat of paint and put that out and let us be able to choose. Like, okay, we could play the remastered Game Boy version of, whatever game, or we can play the original, maybe spruce up everything, even the games that had like Game Boy Color, editions like Link's Awakening DX and stuff like that. Maybe take that to a whole new level, and you could play the original Game Boy version, the DX version, or the new remastered version. I think that would be flippin' sweet. But, like I said, I don't want to say this is going to be cheaping out, but what do I see actually happening? I see this stupid thing being packaged with Game Boy 30th anniversary on it. That's all. In all honesty, I see that's what possibly would happen. And then, instead of putting out a physical cartridge, maybe a download, but more likely, I would think, some kind of Nintendo Switch Online thing, like how they have the NES games we could play. Maybe they'll throw up some Game Boy games instead and say, hey, this is to celebrate the Game Boy. I mean, would that be doing the Game Boy justice? I don't know. I don't want to be the judge of that. I know what I would like to see. I would like to see a collection on physical cartridge, or possibly an actual handheld. That would be cool. I just don't think that's likely, though. I mean, change my mind on that it would be likely. Do you see Nintendo wanting to make a Game Boy Classic edition that you can actually hold and play? maybe has some rechargeable batteries, or maybe you put double A's in it. I don't freaking know. But something like that, a physical unit with a screen that has built-in games, do you see them doing that? Or do you see them just sticking to this thing? Or do you see them doing something, putting games up online for Nintendo Switch? Or possibly what I'm really hoping for, that I think would be pretty cool, a Game Boy collection on physical cartridge for the Switch with remastered titles, all sorts of cool stuff. That's what I'm hoping for. Share your comments down below. Let me know what you think. I had to talk. I had to get on camera and talk tonight. I'm wearing a white shirt. This is the first time, guys. For those of you who know what I'm talking about. But I'm wearing a white shirt. Thank you. So I really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me in the middle of the night while I can't sleep, and I just want to talk about the damn Game Boy because it means so much to me. Seriously, the Game Boy means a lot to me. So thank you. Smash that like button. Make sweet love. Maybe not that, maybe a little less hard, but you know what I'm saying. Make sweet love to that notification bell. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. What the hell are you waiting for, right? And with that said, guys, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out. Bye-bye. And boom. Yup.